Hey everybody, this is my 40-gallon waterfall tank, and I've been standing here enjoying it to some extent, but it just feels like it's missing something to me. And what I've decided that is some really dramatic emergent growth. I really like blurring the lines between environments. It's one thing to have an open top fish tank. It's another to have an open top fish tank that has plants growing up and out and into my environment. So me and the fish are both sharing that same plant, and it sort of ties our worlds together more significantly than it already is. And I like that. I like having that open top tank with the plants growing up and out of it. And so I've got a bucket that's been sitting in the other room underneath of a light. I've got 2 or 3 buckets that I just sort of use as grow out buckets. But this one in particular is one of those buckets that I've never really gotten around to doing anything with because it's just gross. It's green on the inside. It's got who knows what growing in it. It's been sitting there for a very, very long time, months and months and months. It's been sitting there. And it had some temple plants sticking up out of the top of it. It's never done really well. It's always kind of struggled because it had aphids on it, and I would treat for aphids occasionally, and it would sort of recover, and then aphids would get on it again somehow. I don't know how I get aphids on a plant that's in a bucket in the corner of my basement, but aphids, maybe I probably was just never killing them off fully. Anyway, I decided that I'm going to go over there and pull those little chunks of temple plant out and see what they look like, and maybe I could put a couple little pieces in this tank, and over time we will have some nice vigorous growing temple plant. I've tried it in this tank before. I don't know why, but the temple plant has never really established or done well in this tank. Maybe the gourami's munching on it a little bit or something. I don't know. But it turned out the pieces of temple plant that I pulled out of that bucket were a little more vigorous than I thought. So let's go have a look at them while it's sitting over on my washing machine. I got it all splayed open. You can see where all the root balls are and the root masses and all that kind of stuff. And it's going to be quite a lot of plant. I'll have to probably cut it into some pieces. But let's go have a look at that before I get it into the tank. So that's the little pieces that were growing up and out of the bucket. And as I pulled it up and out, I realized that that is just a growth of an offshoot of what was once a main stem. So that's how it was originally growing in my office tank a long time ago. That was the main center stem. And this was just a side branch, which eventually became the main branch that was growing up and out of the water. And all this stuff and all these roots and everything were just down in the bucket. And basically that much of it was sticking up and out of the water. So it was kind of like that, I guess you could say. It was crunched up in the bucket with just a little bit sticking out. So what I'm going to do is cut this off here. That will be a plant in its own right with a fairly vigorous root system on it. And then I've got this stuff going on over here. Now I don't think these little bits of green are actually, oh yeah, they are attached. These are little, well, that one was attached. That is little shoots of temple plant growing off of there. So they were actually growing underwater. And again, with all these roots and everything, I can cut this into multiple pieces and put that in the tank. So let me get started on that. We'll go have one last look at the tank so we can get an idea what your before looks like. All right, there's your before. And there's your after. So not too much to discuss that you didn't already see in the segment in the middle there. Me just vacuuming out all of the crud on the bottom, or a lot of the crud on the bottom there. I wiped the glass down both inside and out, and that was pretty much it. I didn't mess with the filter on the side, and the pump for the Waterfall does not currently even have any kind of filtration on it. It's simply the little plastic grate that comes across the front of the pump housing. So you can see I got a little bit of the red Ludwigia in here that's kind of growing up. I don't know whether that's really still planted in the bottom or it's just kind of floating around in the water and has gotten caught up on the bits of wood that are in there, or that big piece of wood I should say. But I did plant the temple plant. You can see I've got a big chunk of it down here. I lifted it up and put it underneath this rock, and then I took all those flowing roots and I tried to wrap them around here as best I could and really get them back in there so that the roots will get down and underneath of all those rocks. And I'm hoping we'll get some really good root development down here underneath of all these rocks. And if we get enough good solid roots holding on to stuff, we'll get a good secure footing for the plant to grow up and out of the water and grow nice and tall. Again, I've tried to put temple plants in this tank before, and for whatever reason they've never really done well. They've kind of grown up and out of the water, and they've always looked sort of spindly. I know on a couple of occasions it was due to aphids getting on there. I've just gone round and round with aphids in this tank, and I used to get the aphids in my daylily all the time and some other plants when this was a little more lush and summery looking. I had a lot more in the way of aphids crawling around and everything in here. So now we might be okay, and that might literally be the only thing that was really giving me any problems before. If we can keep the stupid aphids off of there, we should be okay. Now the other thing that could be problematic, but I don't think will be much of an issue, is the fact that where this used to be was in a bucket, and it was just sitting on the floor underneath of a light very similar to this. I just have a little LED floodlight hanging from the ceiling, just hanging on a cord like that, shining downward onto a little collection of 3 or 4 buckets that I have over in the other room. And those are sort of my grow out buckets. They come and go and get moved around, and it's just a permanent light source that I can always go stick plants underneath. Well, those temple plants there, or that temple plant there I should say, has been sitting under that kind of lighting with stagnant water in a bucket for months and months and months on end. So suddenly being in a tank where the nutrient content is going to be completely shifted, the amount of CO2 available to it is going to be completely different, because it was emergent. It was, it had 8 inches, 9 inches up and out of the water, and now it's suddenly being submerged as though it were just flooded. And also the amount of light and the quality of light. It's got a big full spectrum, very, very powerful LED shining on it from where it is, and while it is a good distance away, I guarantee you that's still getting a lot more light than it was getting sitting in that bucket over there. The difference being that the bucket gets 24/7. The light just hangs over there and stays on. It's just a light that hangs over there. I can always just throw plants under it when I need to. This is on a roughly 12-hour cycle. I usually turn the lights on about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I usually turn them off again about 10 o'clock at night. So we'll see. I don't know, if that's going to take this time or not, but, cross your fingers. Let's hope for the best. And there you go. That's my quick little project for today. So thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed. Hope you enjoyed that one. Don't forget, of course, this one here is my 40-gallon waterfall tank. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you real soon in the next one.